Tyler, let's start with the Japan angle first. There were some pointed questions to the president from Japanese media about how Japan and the U.S. are allies, yet the U.S. did not warn any country, including Japan, about striking Iran.
Right, exactly. But even with some of those tough questions, Scarlett, I think it's fair to say that this was a relatively warm welcome for the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi after she had warned yesterday that she was expecting this to be a, quote, extremely difficult meeting with President Trump today at the White House. She started her remarks by condemning Iran's attacks on regional countries when it comes to energy infrastructure, as well as the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, because that has really been at the center of the U.S. and our allies' disagreements when it comes to what is going to happen here next. But instead, we heard that President Trump said that he will speak with Japan today about providing mine sweepers in that critical waterway, saying that he believes Japan is stepping up to the plate, unlike NATO allies, although he did add, quote, NATO allies are getting nicer, but as far as he's concerned, it is too late. President Trump also importantly mentioned how he thinks that the U.S. can take over Kharg Island after we heard from the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent earlier today suggesting that the critical export hub for Iran could be a U.S. asset. President Trump, of course, then giving an overall update on where energy infrastructure stands, saying, Scarlett, that he spoke directly to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and warned him against any future attacks against energy infrastructure in the region.
Well, Tyler, that's what caught my ear in particular. Again, as you said, President Trump telling reporters that he told Benjamin Netanyahu not to strike oil and gas, because you think about some of the social media posts that we've seen from the president over the past few days, basically saying that no more attacks will be made by Israel, also saying that when it comes to a recent attack here in Qatar, that the U.S. knew nothing about this particular attack. So a lot of question marks over that relationship and who is really calling the shots at the end of the day.
Right, and we had President Trump, of course, Katie, coming out on Truth Social saying that he is urging a stoppage to energy attacks on both sides from Iran and Israel, though he did warn that if Iran continues to strike regional partners' energy infrastructure, then the U.S. will blow up, in his words, what is remaining of Iran's largest natural gas field. That was the subject of that Israeli airstrike just yesterday, though the president did try to distance himself from that initial strike, ultimately saying that they didn't know about it, even as a senior U.S. official confirms to Bloomberg News that the U.S. was aware of the operation but ultimately didn't take part. This all comes down to the administration's bid to try to get a control when it comes to what has been this massive disruption to global oil supplies, and that is going to come down to the Strait of Hormuz. You really saw President Trump emphasize it there, and what potential collaboration we could see going forward.
All right. Really appreciate your reporting, Tyler. That is Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall joining us from the White House lawn.